Hello, beautiful people. How are you? Wonderful to see you here. So happy. Those of you who are watching the recordings and those of you who are here live, great to see you all. I know some of you are first timers. It's awesome to have you all. Wonderful to be able to see and connect to see you and connect with you. Please like this video and share it with people that you know will benefit from all of this, right? I can see some people here on YouTube, some people on Instagram. I have the two audiences here interacting. Ask any questions you want. It's wonderful when we create content together, first and foremost, right? So there's a lot to talk about. I can see more people joining us on YouTube. Welcome. And everybody who is interested in improving his or her life needs the energy of pure balance, divine love, right? So tonight we're going to talk about the differences between what we can call immature love, mature love, and unconditional love. So three types of love. We are going to dive into the love theme on different areas with different perspectives. The next live session is going to be about individual love, self-worth, and self-esteem. It's about us, right? Us with ourselves. But tonight we're going to talk about the quality of our relationships. So when we talk about immature love in relationship to others, mature love in relationship to others, and unconditional love, which is a different story. So we're actually, if you think of this, this is not easy. This is not hard to grasp. This is not hard to visualize. When we talk about dialectics, and this may sound like, oh, such a difficult thing. I can't even, start to understand what dialectics are. It's actually very simple. We have a thesis, which is the given situation in the present moment. We have an antithesis, which is the opposite of that situation. And we have synthesis. So when you integrate the two polarities, you can create middle ground, what the Buddhists would call the middle path, right? You get out of pendulum and you just ascend into a more aligned and a more sophisticated and a more expanded reality, which is synthesis. So when we talk about immature love, mature love, and unconditional love, I want to invite you to look at it from this dialectic perspective. Immature love is the state of most of us, except very rare human beings who are born with the higher spiritual consciousness, which is rare, right? Most of us are born in immature love, in the blind love of the child, as family constellation literature calls it. And we develop into mature love, the antithesis of that, the opposite of that, with mature love. And then we transcend mature love with unconditional love. So that's the journey I'm inviting you to take with me in this live session. And you can ask any questions you want, even if you're not live, if you're just watching the recordings. It's awesome when you comment, when you share your experience, what you thought of this, and when you share it with other people as well, okay? So that we can grow the community of people who are able to discuss this. Because when people have access to this kind of knowledge, you have the same vocabulary, you have the same thought abilities, right? You have the same concepts to think from. So it's wonderful when more people are able to be exposed to this kind of content so that you can talk to them and share your experiences and all of that. So please make sure that you like this video and that you share it and that you grow our community. And now diving into the subject of love in relationship to others, and unconditional love is a synthesis of all of it. So the first thing I want to mention here is that we need to think of the balance of love energy, right? When we talk about mature love and immature love, what does this mean? That there is duality in the energy of love. As there is duality in the energy of wisdom, and there is duality in the energy of power. So the balance of love comes from wisdom and power aligning with love. This is one of the prerequisites of mature love, okay? Mature love is felt by adults or by very evolved, very developed souls. So sometimes children, especially in the 21st century, not sure if you guys have paid attention to this, but a lot of children are just wise. They just say things. What comes out of the mouths of babes is unbelievable sometimes. You guys have this experience when children just say it to you. They just receive this inspiration of wisdom, and it's coming from a child. I'm sure I know people who are watching this. I'm seeing your names, and I know some of your stories with children who are beyond what we can call a childhood mind, right? But why am I saying this? Because most situations allow mature love to exist in adult human beings. However, a lot of us adults are extremely immature when it comes to love. We take time to develop mature love. Some people do have the mature love experience in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s. If you observe your own journey, ask yourself, how have I seen my love abilities mature? And the reason why love becomes mature, it's because it's paired with wisdom, because wisdom shines a light in our hearts and doesn't allow our love to be blind, right? Because now we see the light with wisdom. And when it comes to power, it's because we are more assertive of our individuality. Because a lot of what characterizes immature love is powerlessness, subservience, right? Giving up your power, giving your power away to other people. We're going to talk about this in this live session. I'm going to give you quite a few examples of this. So the balance of love, first and foremost, has to do with wisdom and power, the three of them walking together. You can't have just power without love and wisdom. It's imbalance. You can't have just wisdom without love and power. It's imbalance. And so the same goes for love. Love without wisdom and power is also imbalance. And that's the theme of this session tonight. So a lot of people get stuck in the lower vibrations of one of these three forces. A lot of people get stuck in the lower vibrations of wisdom, and they're afraid to feel, and they are usually in isolation, and they try to kick people out of their lives as much as possible because they're afraid of relationships. They're afraid to feel. Those are the lower vibration wisdom people. The lower vibration power people are competitive, aggressive. They need others to bow down to them. So that's loveless, right? It's egotistical and selfish. It's imbalanced power. And the imbalanced love, low vibrational frequency is when we don't know how to love maturely, when we are in immature love, right? And we become subservient, we become powerless, as I said, helpless, sometimes victimized, sometimes martyrs. We blackmail people emotionally. It's just kind of a mess, right? For lack of a better expression. So I want you to understand that the balance of love, as I said, is when love, wisdom, and power walk together, all three of them in a balanced way. And the imbalance of love is what we call here immature love, okay? Otherwise known as blind love. Immature love, blind love, the blind love of the child. It is, the name says it, right? It's immature. However, not just children are the ones who express immature love. Adults express it too. And the reason why we often have relationships in which we are in the vibration of immature love is because we have a wounded inner child that has not been addressed, or that has not been addressed enough. And I will tell you this, the wounded inner child needs to be cared for at least on a weekly basis. On a daily basis is ideal, right? But one of the reasons why I created the inner child practice, which I'll teach again in one of these live sessions that we're going to have soon, is because you can daily take care of your inner child. And when you do that for 10 minutes a day, you will feel that your emotions are much more balanced, that your immature love is becoming more mature, that the blind love is becoming more enlightened, right? That you're opening your eyes instead of closing them. This is very, very important to understand. So, immature love, as also known as the blind love of the child, in my experience, I noticed three types of immature love that tend to predominate in people's lives. And maybe they will resonate with you. They'll make sense to you as you hear them out, right? So there is needy immature love, there is guilty immature love, and there is fearful immature love. And we're going to dive into all of these. So starting with needy immature love, needy love. It can also be called greedy love. Okay, so needy love is greedy love. It's suffocating love. It's when you just tower over your loved ones and don't even allow them to breathe. It's when you worry too much about your loved ones. You're overdoing it in your caretaking. You're suffocating maybe your children or maybe any loved person, right? And it's also known as attachment. So this first kind of immature love, needy love slash greedy love slash suffocating love slash attachment, is when we feel helpless and we feel like we need someone else in our lives in order for our lives to make sense. So it's coming from lack of self-sufficiency, lack of self-reliance. It's coming from a place of powerlessness, okay? And I want you to think about your relationships and if you have intense attachments to people you love. Are you needy? Do you suffocate them? I don't want you to think about other people as much as I want you to think about yourself, because it's very easy when we're talking about soul healing and consciousness expansion and all these concepts of human nature. It's very easy to see other people. Oh, so and so is like that, and so is like that. Who cares? It's really important that you focus on yourself. Otherwise, it's easy to become judgmental. Is this making sense? So it is a self-defense mechanism. It is something that we all tend to do as human beings. It's not easy to look within when we're looking at immature love, but I'm sure you're going to identify with the mature love relationships as well, okay? And it's not that I want you to be pointing out your flaws to yourself. I just want you to dive into your inner world and polish the raw surfaces that are still a little primitive, that are holding you back, right? That the most important thing is, I don't want you to suffer, to make yourself suffer with your own feelings and behaviors. And I want you to be very happy. I always tell people it's about the joy of life. When people aren't joyful, it's a lot of it has to do with not really mastering their minds, not really knowing themselves and what to do with their emotions. So right now, I want you to pay attention to your behavior and see if you have a relationship in which you are needy towards someone else. If you aren't and you feel suffocated by someone, own that. Because it may very well be the case that you are the object of blind love, that you are the object of someone who suffocates you, of someone who doesn't have a life of her own or his own, and that you may be the reason of his or her life, right? So there's a lot of micromanaging of your life, of what you do, and you may feel suffocated. So if you're not the one doing this, maybe you're the one who receives that kind of treatment. But if we attract what we expect and we attract who we truly are, regardless of the role you're playing in the immature love relationship, in the needy love relationship, the more you change within, the more your immature love becomes mature love. So that's the good part, right? Things can be transmuted, things can be transformed. So the first imbalance that I wanted to point out is needy immature love and greedy because you want the person all to yourself. And maybe you get jealous of the person having other friendships or the person having a beautiful love relationship with other people, and you just want the person all to yourself. You know, whenever you feel jealous of other people's feelings towards others, that means you have a wounded inner child and you need to work on that. Or someone does this to you, right? What do? you need to bring this to the person's awareness. Sometimes you can't say it directly. So instead of saying something, you just behave in a way that gives the person a hint. Okay. So if the person wants to suffocate you, micromanage your life, you just breathe deep and say, I can't right now. You don't be aggressive, because if you're aggressive to someone who suffocates you, you're just going to add to the damage, and you're just going to go down in the downward spiral, because unconsciously the person may want you to react aggressively. It makes him or her feel validated. It's part of the needy love dynamic. People who are needy, suffocating, greedy, attached, they may often try to push your buttons to get you to get angry. And that's the kind of attention their wounded inner child needs. Okay? Each person has a different kind of soul wound. And the needy love motivation, sometimes, to get attention, they want to get you pissed off. They'll push your buttons and trigger you so that when you finally blow up, then you feed that person's lower self. And the reason why you blow up is because you have not yet mastered that relationship. You don't yet know how to deal with that person in a mature love vibration. So then the person sets the tone of the relationship. Is this making sense? So taking a deep breath, we just want to, get the territory charted here. Immature love in 3 ways, manifests in 3 ways, as I said. Needy love. Secondly, there's another type of immature love, which is guilty love. And this has to do with feeling like you need to compensate for something your whole life. This need for compensation of damage, often of damage that you have not created, but you feel guilty about maybe being, privileged in a specific family structure or even social structure, and you feel like you need to repay or compensate for something that was done in the past, not necessarily by you. Okay? So greedy love is very self-centered, and guilty love is more centered on the scenario around you. You feel like you somehow have created damage in a person's life. This is very common for divorced parents trying to compensate for their children, or parents who know that their children have gone through turmoil, or even parents who have had a very difficult childhood, and when they have their own kids, their lives are already abundant, so they try to give their kids everything. They spoil their children because they're actually compensating for their own inner child issues. Their children were not born in poverty or turmoil or a damaged environment. It's none of that. But this is so common. If a person has had a difficult childhood and has created a very structured, abundant life for himself or herself in adulthood, when this person is a parent, they try to compensate for the lack they have felt as children with their own children. And what happens is that they don't set boundaries for their kids. They spoil their children. And this kind of love is also imbalanced. Okay? The guilty kind of love does not do any good to anybody. It doesn't necessarily have to be a child. This can happen in love relationships and romantic relationships. People who have trauma in their childhood may find spouses or partners that they spoil rotten, like they treat them as children. That book, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which is a movie. There are a few movies that were created, right? About this story. Veruca Salt is such a spoiled brat, right? So that kind of thing, when parents are trying to compensate for some sort of lack, either because they have caused pain to their children, or they're compensating for their own childhood, or in an even more complex and broader scenario, they could be compensating for ancestors, which is a whole other story. We'll talk about that in another live session. Let me just see here in the Instagram. Holistic Life Management, so wonderful to see you. She just did her inner child practice and then saw the live session. That's Jennifer. I love it. This is wonderful. Yeah. You can do the inner child practice daily. There is a tutorial on YouTube. If you go to my YouTube channel, Paula Renova, you will find the inner child practice there. It's also in the book, Your Cardinal Connections, chapter 6. It's very easy. It's 10 minutes. You just get a bracelet and a tumbled stone and place the stone inside the bracelet on your solar plexus or your heart. And it really is powerful for inner child healing. It's a silent self-healing technique that acts on the deep unconscious level and the subconscious level. So it's powerful. Okay. And the inner child practice is great for any type of immature love, which I'm describing here. I've described two already, the needy love and the guilty love. And there is a third type of immature love, which is the fearful love. Fearful love has to do with being afraid of feeling, of being afraid of loving. So you only go maybe 10% into the relationship. You feel distant. You make yourself unavailable. This can be with parenting. This can be with romantic relationships. This can be with friendships. I see a lot of people sabotaging their love relationships because they're afraid of diving deeper. They're afraid of feeling because they associate love with pain. Okay, so let's just take a deep breath right now. Hold on. The three types of immature love, needy love, guilty love, or fearful love, all come from a place of lack for different reasons. The needy people feel like the love object, the people they love, are the meaning of their lives, when in reality, the meaning of your life is connecting to your higher self and expressing your most amazing potentials in the world, okay? You are not born to love someone else. Loving someone else is a consequence. It is an unfoldment. It is a benefit from living from your higher self perspective. Whenever you think that loving someone is the reason why you were born, is the reason why you live, you're in immature love mode, okay? That's the needy love kind of distorted thinking. The guilty love people feel like they need to compensate all the time. They're always compensating for something. Again, they're not in the core of their being. Their energy is drawn outwards, right? They're just not centered. And the fearful people equivalent love to pain. So they don't want to feel, they don't want to love. They don't feel like they can love fully. And it's so crazy, but it's so true. When these people feel that love is expanding, because that's the nature of love too. Love is ever expanding and love is ever growing and it's getting deeper every day. So people who are afraid of feeling love, they halt it, they sabotage it. It's the people who have long distance relationships. Just a quick parenthesis here. Everybody who has a long distance romantic relationship is afraid of love. People who are in a distance relationship want the distance, don't want the relationship. I have to be honest here. One of my missions in life is to encourage people to be happy. And long distance relationships are not happy relationships, period. You're fooling yourself. Do something about it. Either break it up or move to the place where the person lives, or ask the person to move to where you live. Do not have distance romantic relationships, period. I beg you. This is not healthy for your soul, okay? So the fearful love is the fear of love. So it's immature love because if you're afraid of love, you can't develop the love flame in your heart, right? Remember, love is balanced when it's paired with wisdom and power. If you're afraid to love, you either want to be all powerful and then you're going to become an oppressor, or you want to be all wisdom and then you're going to become an isolated person in the Himalayas. And this is not what I would consider a fulfilled spirituality. We do need times of retreat and times of reclusion for the sake of coming back to society and helping people. All right? Everybody who's in a spiritual mission is at the service of others. If you're isolating yourself in a mountain thinking that you're spiritual, I know this is counterintuitive to a lot of people, and I don't want to offend any spiritual person or religion. I just think that isolation is necessary if it is a step in the journey of bringing the wisdom you're acquiring on your own to a group of people to help others and serve others. Okay? All the avatars, all the enlightened masters went through a period of seclusion and then shared their wisdom with others. So if you're forever in the ivory towers of wisdom, forever in the ivory towers of isolated spirituality, not in contact with other people, not serving the world with what you know, with what you feel, with your presence, with your service, spirituality is incomplete. It is necessary to be on your own. We need this balance, right, of resting and of action. We can't be acting all the time. We can't be altruistic all the time. Otherwise, we get depleted. We need to nurture ourselves, and that comes from recoiling. That's so, so true. But you can't be hiding all the time. So the fearful people, the ones who are afraid of love, they don't want to love. So they just put their little toe in the water and never dive into the lake. That's not a fulfilling life. These people are not fulfilled and happy as they could be. The potential of a joyful life is not fulfilled when we have that kind of behavior, right? So that being said, with those concepts in mind, we can talk about mature love and unconditional love. So mature love, I think there's stages. This is my opinion. You don't have to agree with everything that I say here. I love it when people comment and maybe disagree and ask questions, because this is just, my thought processes that I'm sharing here with you. So mature love, I believe, is a stage we need to go through in order to develop unconditional love. So from immature love to mature love, the reason why we have these binary terms, the reason why love has adjectives in the first place, immature love, mature love, is that we live in a dualistic perspective when we are not connected to our higher selves, right? So the human experience is still an experience of duality, and it can become an experience of synthesis, like I mentioned in the beginning of this live session, when we go through a journey. So developing mature love, first and foremost, you need to have the willpower, first and foremost, to work on yourself and work on your personal growth to get out of immature love mode. It needs to come from you. People may tell you that you need, to work on yourself, that your love is immature, whatever it is. But if you don't want to change, you won't, right? It needs to come from within. So you need first and foremost to have the will to develop mature love and to take the steps and the actions for this to happen. And it's a process of personal growth. So mature love is relationship oriented. You develop mature love in relationships with your parents. The very beginning of your life, the first people you can develop a mature love relationship is with your parents. And it's understandable that children, the first kind of love they may develop with their parents may be needy when they feel any kind of lack coming from the parents. But when a human child is born, sometimes this can happen even in womb life. Sometimes there is emotional damage throughout pregnancy. This is not uncommon. But a human baby in its natural state is in unconditional love mode. Then some sort of emotional wound happens, and this person may develop a needy kind of love with the parents and demand a lot from parents, right? The parents are not perfect, and the immature child needs the parents' perfection. So there may be a needy love in early childhood, but as you develop, as you grow, as you're educated by your parents, you may not be in needy love mode for too long, right? But just understand this: mature love requires you to be in a relationship with your parents, with your siblings, with your family members, with your community, with people that you are, in contact with in your local community and an immediate environment, scenario. And if you fear relationships, if you have issues developing relationships with others, you probably have the fearful love kind of energy. So observe that with love in your heart. Don't beat yourself up for this. Don't be cruel to yourself, and just observe it. Okay. And there are ways to work on this. So mature love requires relationships. It's relationship oriented. And the first characteristic of mature love is open eyes. So as opposed to the blind, immature love of the child, mature love requires you to open your eyes and see the truth of the person you are in a relationship with. We're going to have another live session in which I'm going to talk about opening your eyes to yourself, self-love, self-worth, and self-esteem. But right now, I want you to focus on the love for others and observe all your relationships that you have more love connections with, not social relationships or neutral relationships, but the people who matter to you: friends, family members, spouses, children, parents, siblings. Do you see them with open eyes, or do you sugarcoat the truth, or do you demonize them? So one of the distortions of immature love is to either idolize the people you love or demonize the people you love. Those are both pendular polarity, immature love mode energies. With mature love, you open your eyes and you see the people you love as they are, for who they are. And they will not be perfect. And you will make an effort not to sugarcoat those you love dearly. Otherwise, you're going to be in blind love mode. And you're going to be enabling them to be, destructive or spoiled or whatever it is if you sugarcoat or idolize your loved ones. And you cannot demonize the people you love either, because I've seen this so much in my experience. We do not hold grudges or hatred or have a tumultuous relationship with people we don't love. I see a lot of people coming to energy healing sessions with problems with their children, especially teenagers, right? And the teenagers in our culture feel they have the right to be disrespectful to their parents, and they are only disrespectful to parents because parents do not set their authority, do not assert their authority. They feel guilty about it. They feel like they're going to traumatize the child when all the child wants is limits, right? Healthy boundaries. And they really need to know who the authority figure is. If a parent does not stand his or her ground as the authority figure, the child will test you and they will try to hog the space of the alpha male or female in the family. And a lot of family systems are imbalanced for this very reason. The child has an intense personality and they just take the place of the mandatory figure, of the authoritative figure in the family. So we need to be very careful about that. So when you see the truth about your child, if your child has a difficult personality, own it and don't enable that. If a parent has a difficult personality, this can happen in the other way around too. Some parents are difficult. They make their child's lives not easy, right? A lot of parents don't know how to parent adults. They think their children are children forever. They're always suffocating their children, micromanaging their lives, asking every single detail of everything. If you have an adult child, if they want to say something to you, they will. Do not suffocate them with questions or demanding to know their lives, because adults need privacy. This is a holy energy. This is sacred, okay? There's nothing more sacred to an adult human being than having their privacy respected. So open your eye. Mature love requires you to open your eyes, see the truth. It requires you to walk hand in hand with the truth. The truth is a wisdom aspect. So mature love walks hand in hand with wisdom. When you open your eyes, it's not blind love, right? It's a love with open eyes. You want to see the truth. And when you see the truth of the person you love, you want the best for them. You don't enable them by spoiling them or sugarcoating their complicated traits. And you don't demonize them either. So the demonization kind of sometimes happens between parents and children, between children and parents, right? The inner child feels frustrated and then gets too intense. And there are people who, you know, hate their parents throughout their lives. The hate is love. Okay. I have to say this to you. If you didn't love a person you hate, you would be indifferent. So whenever you hate, there is a connection. That person is important to you. The moment the person ceases to be important, you have no intense feelings. You're just in neutral mode. So observe yourself and ask yourself, do I hold grudges against someone? That's because that someone is important to me still. Because if the person weren't important to me right now, I would not even care. I would be in neutral mode. I would be ignoring that person's existence. I would be focusing on something different. Is this making sense? So, the people you love with mature love, you need to love them with open eyes. See them for who they are. Don't idolize them. Don't sugarcoat their difficult personality traits. Don't demonize them either. Okay? The second thing that's a characteristic of mature love that you can sense that your love is becoming more mature is that you say the truth to who you love. This is a huge one. Sometimes we want to protect the feelings of the people we love, so we don't say the truth to them. And then again, we're enabling them to, go down a road that's not too healthy. That would not be the best for them. If they're not asking for advice, don't give it. But, if you're in a close relationship with someone, you probably have the freedom to say the truth. And the truth, when you say the truth, you are loving this person genuinely from a mature perspective, not from an immature perspective. You want to protect their feelings. When we protect people's feelings from the truth, what we're doing is we are kind of taking away their dignity as adults. You protect children and children's feelings. But if you have enough tact and love in your heart, politely you can say the truth and people will thank you for it. So don't be afraid to say the truth to the people you love, especially if they ask your opinion. This is different. There's a lot of people who want to use this information and kind of trick themselves into thinking, okay, so now I can barge into people's lives and invade them with my opinion without them asking and micromanage, right? Or be cruel and critical. Because I love you, I'm criticizing you because I want you to be perfect. Pay attention to this. Do not ask perfection out of the people you love. Mature love has to do with saying the truth, not trying to mold the person according to your opinion of what's best for them. It's important to discern this. This is another way of being in mature love mode. Okay, it's not that saying the truth is very different from imposing your point of view on other people. Okay, maybe your child has a specific taste for some, I don't know what kind of clothes he or she wants to wear. It's not your style, but it's his or her nature. So leave them alone. Okay, allow people to be free. Do not mistake saying the truth with imposing your opinion on other people. When you're imposing your opinion about what's best for others, that's immature love mode. You're in needy, greedy, attached mode. You're taking care of another person's life instead of minding your own business. So I know this isn't easy to hear for a lot of us, but it takes courage to polish your lower self, right? So that you integrate your lower self with your higher self. It requires a journey. And we need to be kind to ourselves, but we need to be firm with ourselves as well. And discernment is important, always. The third thing about mature love that's important to point out, I would say, is to set healthy boundaries. You set healthy boundaries on yourself. I'm talking about not self-love. We'll talk about this when we talk about self-love in another live session. But in your relationship with other people, set healthy boundaries to your urges. Set healthy boundaries to yourself. Silence is golden. Love them silently. Maturity, adulthood, have a lot to do with minding your own business, taking care of your own life, silencing yourself as much as possible so that when you speak, people listen. Because a lot of people talk all the time, give their opinion all the time, are so overactive, over interactive that it overwhelms their loved ones, and then people just don't respect what they say, don't pay attention, take them for granted, feel like they're an annoying presence. So you don't want to be that person, right? Setting healthy boundaries on your impulses, setting healthy boundaries on your urges, especially if you're a caretaker. Impulsive caretakers are in inner child mode, are in needy, greedy love mode, are in attachment mode, suffocating their loved ones. So work on yourself. Don't expect others to be the ones to tell you that you're too much, you know? So mature love has to do with setting healthy boundaries. On a mature love, which is relationship oriented, has to do with setting healthy boundaries to your own inner child so that you don't invade other people's territories. All right? The fourth thing that I want to point out about mature love that is an indication that you are engaging in mature love is when you make non-attachment decisions. This is huge. Non-attached decisions. This is huge. The more you love the person, the more you set them free. The more you love the person, the more you want them to be happy, regardless of how you feel. So eagles push their babies out of the nest, right? They take care of them protectively between 1 to 2 years, and then they kick them out. Because if they don't, what they're doing is it's just suffocating. It doesn't make sense for nature, right? To suffocate your children, to keep your children under your wings. And adult human beings have the ability to create their own resources for survival. So don't enable your adult partner or your adult child to be dependent on you. Set them free and encourage them to own their power. All right. So if it's easy for you to hold on to your children or to your loved ones, or I don't know, to your friends, the more you detach, the more you tell them go, be free, expand, go conquer the world, the more mature you are. One of the most beautiful non-attached decisions that a person can make, and I've seen this with a few people who have issues with owning their personal power, but they're very aware of their wisdom and their love. So maybe have an asymmetric relationship, right? A romantic relationship. And one of them is growing and growing, and this person can't keep up. The person who can't keep up can just say, you go fly. I can't keep up with you. I can't hold you back. Go. Non-attached decisions are huge demonstrations of mature love because it means you're not imprisoning your loved one. Okay, when you imprison a loved one, that is immature. When you set a loved one free, that is mature. It's for the best of all involved. It is a free relationship. Okay, so now that we've talked about the imbalanced love, the immature love, which is needy or guilty or fearful, or all three together, and we've talked about the mature love, which has all these characteristics that I've just mentioned, we can tap into the last piece of this live session, which is unconditional love, which is oriented towards oneness. So immature love is selfish. It's self-oriented, okay? Immature love relationships that are self-oriented are immature. Mature love relationships are relationship-oriented, and you want the best for all involved, and you are in that relationship as an adult. Once you've mastered mature love, which is relationship-oriented, meaning once you've been through relationship experiences, once you've loved individuals with mature love, once you've loved your parents, your siblings, your spouse, your children, your friends, once you have mastered mature love in your immediate relationships with individuals, I'm talking about interpersonal relationships here, then you are prepared. Then you have enough energy and awareness. You've developed enough wisdom and power and love symmetrically to engage in unconditional love, which is oriented towards oneness. So, unconditional love requires a level of maturity that is beyond love relationships. Love relationships are necessary. They're like the ground where unconditional love stands, right? So that's why I kind of cringe a little bit when people say that they're very spiritual, but they don't have friends and they don't talk to their mother. How can you say you're spiritual if you don't talk to your mother? And then they substitute their parents, their biological parents, for spiritual parents. This is not aligned with wholeness and oneness. All right. My belief, and in the cardinal method, this is how it works. You need to make peace with all your family members and be in a harmonious relationship and not hold grudges and work on your emotional health before you develop a genuine, stable spirituality. So don't use spirituality as escapism from emotional pain. That's escapism, right? You're fooling yourself. That's an illusion. I want you to be a whole human being. And I know that doing the emotional work is not easy. Actually, it's the hardest aspect, right? We don't want to feel the negative or difficult emotions. It's much easier to escape into our thoughts, our rational minds, or a spiritual path. But if your emotions are still wounded, you're going to create an abyss of development. You're not going to be balanced. You're not going to have a very balanced inner world. So unconditional love is a spiritual kind of love, and it's oriented towards oneness. It is a state of being more than anything else. So just by being who you are, it's the state of being that babies are in before their inner child is wounded, right? Some people have the wounded inner child experience in the womb. Maybe they feel rejected in the womb. Some people feel it up until age 7. We will all be wounded. I mean, it has been the human experience up until 2012, right? Maybe it's changed after 2012. It's possible. But everyone who was born before 2012 has had the inner child, has gone through a wounding experience, either from conception up until age 7. So, but before the inner child wound, we are in a state of being of unconditional love. And it doesn't mean that unconditional love goes away when we are in immature love mode or when we're developing mature love mode. It's ever present and always existent, but it's not predominant when we are in a mature love mode, or even when we are in mature love, developing a mature love relationship. Once you have created, you've traveled from immature love to mature love, your mature love relationships are harmonized, then the state of being of unconditional love, I believe, is possible. And it is a state of grace. And as I said, it's a state of being. It's not a state of doing and not a state of having anything. It's a state of being who you are, right? And it's impersonal. So the Dalai Lama, the avatars, the saints in the churches, the great masters of humanity, they have tapped into impersonal, unconditional love for all beings. And most human beings have not yet mastered this, right? It's what David Hume calls selective affections. We tend to have selective affections with our loved ones. We tend to love our family members more than we love strangers. But unconditional love is a state of being in which you are the higher light, you are your higher self. And it's impersonal because you are able to send love to all human beings, strangers, and people who have hurt you. So this is huge and it is possible. Please believe this, okay? It is possible. It really is possible for you to send impersonal, unconditional love even to people who have hurt you. Actually, this is a wonderful practice. This is the practice that I want you to stay with tonight in this live session, is to think about the people who have hurt you or who are hurting you now. This is in a lot of spiritual traditions, okay? Christian, Hindu, indigenous, contemporary spirituality. A lot of people are saying the same thing. Send unconditional love to the people who have hurt you, who are hurting you now. And you're going to see the energy shift. Because if you engage in the hatred, in the difficult emanations, you're going to perpetuate the vicious circle of suffering, and you're going to be, in the downward spiral, and that's not what you want. So unconditional love is within every human being. It's likely for most of us not yet the majority of our inner world, right? It's not the protagonist yet, but you can walk towards that goal, that state of being, towards that direction. It requires you to meditate daily, for example. It requires you to be silent and observe instead of reacting. It requires you to master your emotions. It requires your dedication to your inner world and to your personal development, but it is possible. So unconditional love is impersonal because it has no selective affections. Selective affections is a term that I love by the philosopher David Hume. And selective affections don't necessarily have to do only with the people you love. It also has to do with the people you hate, right? And when you're hating, it means the person is still important to you. That person, hate is just distorted love, okay? Love is still there if you hate someone. If you're indifferent, then something has really shifted. Then there is no love there. If you're indifferent, if you're neutral. So unconditional love is oriented towards oneness. It is a state of being. It's the ability of feeling impersonal love for all beings in your life, even those who have hurt you, possibly especially those who have hurt you. And I know it's not easy, okay? But we have some examples of human beings that have come to our planet who have done this. So, and what they're saying to us is, in a human experience, I have been able to conquer this. So can you, if you're willing. Not saying it's easy, but it's possible. And also with unconditional love, you want the best for everybody. You just want everybody to be happy. Once you hear that someone's happy and thriving, you feel awesome. It feels like it's your experience of happiness. I'm so happy so-and-so is happy. This is so great, because happy people lead happy lives, and then we harmonize all relationships. Because the people who create problems are the unhappy people, right? Everything begins and ends in the human heart. I always say this in the cardinal method. This is one of the name cardinal method. Cardinal has to do with cardio, heart, right? Everything begins and ends in the human heart. So people who create problems in the world have issues in their hearts. They're unhappy, they're wounded, because happy people don't create problems. So you, in unconditional love, you want the best for every single being, not just humans, every single being in existence, right? And all you see is the best in everything and everyone with open eyes. So this is different from sugarcoating the truth. This is different from avoiding what is not pleasant. This is about seeing the potential in problematic people. This is about seeing the potential in people who are creating pain right now. Okay, and seeing the potential in yourself. We're going to talk about this in our next live session. We're going to turn all this love talk to the individual self and how we can do this for ourselves and with ourselves as well. So unconditional impersonal love has to do with seeing the light and the potential of unconditional love in every single being in the planet. It's easy to see this with animals and plants, for example, because they're all loving, they're all generous. Some species, not in an obvious way, but all animal species are in this natural state of being of impersonal oneness in connection with unconditional love. I do believe that. I seriously do. And another and the last thing that I want to mention before we end this live session tonight is that part of unconditional love is that you see yourself in all. This requires maturity. This requires wisdom. This requires personal development. When you're able to see yourself in every single experience of your life, when you understand that every single experience, every object, every person in your life is a mirror image of who you are. And we're going to dive deeper into this in the next live sessions on Instagram and YouTube. You're going to be able to seriously take a leap into higher consciousness. Okay? Everyone is a mirror image of yourself. Everyone is a mirror image of you. I'm going through this painful relationship right now. I'm going through this, annoying experience. It's always a lesson to polish the rough surfaces of your inner world. And it's a reflection of who you are, even if you're not aware of that. We don't attract the experiences that we want necessarily. We attract the experiences of that mirror who we are. And in unconditional love, you understand that. It makes sense because unconditional love is paired equally with wisdom and with personal power, with divine power. So not only are you able to recognize that everything is a mirror image of your inner world, the external world is just a mirror of the inner world, but also you're able to do something about it with your personal power, right? And that's when individual love for self comes into the picture. We're going to talk about that next week in our live session. I hope to see you here. It's wonderful to have you all here live, and also the ones who are watching the recordings. I know that most of you can't be live because of different time zones and that you watch this later. So I just want to thank you and honor you for watching this and for engaging, for liking this video, for sharing it, for commenting your experience. It's always amazing to see how this has resonated with you and how you can also contribute with your wisdom, with your experiences, with your questions, right? In these videos that we have, in these live sessions that we have, so that we grow together as a community. Please make sure that you share this with like-minded people that you know may benefit from this content and that who can contribute to this community so that we can have, a similar vocabulary and exchange ideas and expand in consciousness and grow as human beings. All right? Much love to all of you. Have a beautiful rest of your day or night, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.